Okay, so I've been talking to myself for a couple minutes because I thought I had clicked the button to go live, but I didn't. So let's start again. Hi, everybody. I'm Annie Brock, and would like to welcome you to the Leader Transition Institute's April 2024 Learn, Do, Grow, Repeat. StreamYard sending stuff to me, and I just clicked it off. I'm sorry if you're going to watch this later on Facebook. For some reason, StreamYard decided not to connect to Facebook today. So anyway, we hold these sessions on the fourth Tuesday of every month at 12 o'clock p.m. Eastern Time. It's one way that we provide continuing education to our changing focus, moving from we to me alums. However, that we know that what we talk about is also interesting to other people. So we stream the sessions on LinkedIn, Facebook, YouTube, and X. For those of you who don't know me, who haven't met me before, I'm LTI's president and CEO. I'm an Army veteran and Air Force spouse, and a teacher and coach of all things mindset, communication, and leadership. Many years ago, I was one of the first 100 women soldiers assigned to the 82nd Airborne Division, and there I was a battalion legal clerk and earned my senior jump wings. I also received a direct commission then at the end of my time there to the Medical Service Corps, went to flight school and became a medevac helicopter pilot, and I flew Hueys and Blackhawks. As a military spouse, I homeschooled 2 daughters during our moves across the United States and Europe, and along the way, I also grew myself, becoming a founding partner of the Maxwell Leadership Certified Team, where I'm an executive program leader and corporate facilitator. If you've never participated in one of these sessions before, here's what's going to happen. I'm going to teach for 20 to 30 minutes, and while I do that, I hope you'll share some comments and questions in the chat. I'll do my best to keep up with them and respond. I'm excited to be talking with you today about leadership, specifically about 4 lessons out of the 26 in John Maxwell's book, Leadership Gold. Now, I've got a whole shelf of John's books behind me. I've got Leadership Gold on speed dial right here on my iPad. Now, I've got an ask for you. If you have never experienced a failure at least one time in leading others, would you please put a thumbs up in the comments? I'll give you a minute to do that. I don't see any in the comment, anything. And so I have to assume that everybody who's on watching this has experienced some kind of a failure when leading themselves or other people. And I don't know about you, but when I sat in a heap after making one of my colossal leadership blunders, I wished someone had warned me about this. The stakes are really high in leading people today. There's more competition, slimmer margins, and increasing pressure to perform. Would you like an advantage in helping your team become successful? I know the answer to that. Of course you do. So let's explore some leadership gold nuggets that you can apply immediately. It's been said that a wise person learns from their mistakes, and a wiser person learns from others' mistakes. But the wisest person of all learns from others' successes. I've been following John Maxwell since the early 1990s. He's been my personal friend and mentor since 2011. And over his leadership career, John has mentored thousands of people in hundreds of companies. He believes and has proven in his work that leadership makes a difference, a huge difference. Leadership requires a lot from a person. It's demanding and complex. I don't want you to be like Charlie Brown, who admired a sandcastle he had created on a beach, only to have it leveled by a huge downpour. As he looked at the smooth place where his artwork had once stood, he said, "There must be a lesson here somewhere, but I don't know what it is." So I want you to join me in minding some gold from this book. In our brief time together, I want to consider 4 topics. First, if you're lonely as a leader, then what is wrong? Second, what is the quickest way to evaluate how well you're leading your team? Third, how do you lead the toughest person in the room? And last but not least, people quit people, not companies. So how do you avoid losing key people? Our time is limited, so we're only going to scratch the surface of each one. But I want to give you tangible takeaways to raise your leadership today. Now let's dig in. If you're lonely as a leader, then what is wrong? That is a great question to ask. Because one consistent assumption that leaders make is that if they're good leaders, they will be lonely at the top. In his chapter, if it's lonely at the top, you're not doing something right. John makes the case that if you feel lonely in your position as a leader, then your leadership is all about your position and not about your people. John often says, and I love this, if you're taking a journey and no one is following you, you're just taking a walk. If you are all alone, then no one is following you. And if nobody is following you, you're not really leading at all. So how do you bring along others with you? First, you want to avoid positional thinking. When you use your title to persuade your people, you create distance between you and them. A leader doesn't belittle their people, they enlarge their people. Win your people over by building relationships with them. Do that and you'll never be lonely. You have to recognize the downsides of success and failure. Both are dangerous to a leader. If you have started to have some success, you might be tempted to believe you don't need your team. But ironically, they're the ones who helped you get there. So remember always that you are in the people business. I cannot say it strongly enough. Leaders are in the people business. Have you heard about the law of significance? In John's books, The 17 Indispensable Laws of Teamwork, he writes, one is too small of a number to achieve greatness. I challenge you to find one person who made a significant impact in this world all by themselves. Greatness is always bigger than what you can do by yourself. And have you noticed that we tend to judge others according to their actions, but we judge ourselves by our intentions? You know, I'm guilty of this. Even when I blow it, I often let myself off the hook because my motives were good. So how do you lead yourself well? That's a good question to ask. Here are a few takeaways. First, develop self-discipline. It's said that one day Frederick the Great of Prussia was walking along the outskirts of Berlin when he encountered a very old man walking ramrod straight in the opposite direction. Who are you? Frederick asked his subject. I am a king, replied the old man. A king, laughed Frederick. Over what kingdom do you reign? Over myself, was the proud old man's reply. Discipline is simply giving ourselves the command and following it through. Self-discipline is the highest form of leadership. You are the captain of your ship, the master of your own soul. Leading yourself is a challenge, and one way your character shows up is in how you lead yourself. Truthfully, there are days when I just want to take a break from keeping myself under control. The problem is, it's just not smart to take any day off, which leads me to the second action you can take to lead yourself well. Seek accountability. I've heard John say that people who lead themselves well know a secret. They can't trust themselves. When you think you are untouchable, you learn how quickly poor choices can touch you. And if you pay attention to military news, like a lot of us who might be listening to this do, you will often read that an organizational leader was removed because of their senior commander's loss of confidence in their ability to lead. Dreadfully often, it's because they have failed to lead themselves well. And as a result of this, they hurt themselves and those they were leading. Do you have an accountability partner or a peer group? I have a weekly meeting with our Vice President for Operations, Matt Sivicek. He finalizes our agenda the afternoon before, and every week I check that agenda as soon as he's finished it to see what I didn't get done from the week before and what I can quickly get done before our meeting. John frequently talks about the accountability partner he used to meet with. They had a list of agreed upon questions that they would ask each other. And because they knew themselves well, the last question they asked each other was always, did you lie about any of the previous questions? Thomas Watson said it so aptly. Nothing so conclusively proves a man's ability to lead others as what he does from day to day to lead himself. In the chapter, Defining Moments Define Your Leadership, John points out that often it's the choices we make in times of crisis or challenge that define us and shape our leadership. If you want to increase your leadership with people, solve problems. How we act or fail to act in those moments reveals to others just what our leadership competencies are. Whether you're facing a personal failure, taking a stand on an issue, experiencing suffering, or making an unpleasant choice, all these and more, when you handle them well, will either catapult you forward or eliminate your effectiveness. Let's talk about how you handle criticism. There's another story that I love about a salesman who was getting a haircut, and he mentioned that he was about to take a trip to Rome, Italy. Rome is a terrible, overrated city, commented his barber, who was born in northern Italy. What airline are you taking? The salesman told him the name of the airline, and the barber responded, what a terrible airline. Their seats are cramped, their food is bad, and their planes are always late. What hotel are you staying at? The salesman named the hotel, and the barber said, why would you stay there? That hotel is in the wrong part of town and has horrible service. You're better off staying at home. But I expect to close a big deal while I'm there, the salesman replied. And afterward, I hope to see the Pope. You'll be disappointed trying to do business in Italy, said the barber. And don't count on seeing the Pope. He only grants audiences to very important people. 3 weeks later, the salesman returned to the barbershop. And how was your trip? Asked the barber. Wonderful, replied the salesman. The flight was perfect, the service at the hotel was excellent, and I made a big sale. And the salesman paused for effect. I got to meet the Pope. You got to meet the Pope? The barber was impressed. Tell me what happened. Well, when I approached him, I bent down and I kissed his ring. No kidding. What did he say? He looked down at my head and said, my son, where did you get such a lousy haircut? People can change for the better only when they are open to improvement. Your ability to handle criticism well is essential to your growth as a leader. Now, I've learned from John to maintain the right attitude by not being defensive, looking for the grain of truth in what is said, making the necessary changes, and taking the high road. When you sit in the leader's seat, criticism finds your desk. Whether it's legitimate or not, it's essential to maintain the attitude that there is gold in that pile of dirt. Here are the questions I ask to determine what kind of criticism it is. First, I think about who was it who criticized me? Adverse criticism from a wise person is much more desirable than the enthusiastic approval of a fool, because as in many things in life, the source matters. I also consider how the criticism was given. Was the person being judgmental, or did they give me the benefit of the doubt and speak with kindness? I also ask, why was it given? Was it given out of personal hurt or for my benefit? Hurting people hurt people. They lash out or criticize to try and make themselves feel better, not to help the other person. Lastly, whether the criticism is legitimate or not, What determines whether I grow from or groan under unwanted words is my attitude. In the chapter Never Work a Day in Your Life, John describes the importance of having a passion for what you do. Following your passion is one key to living up to your potential. How do you find your passion? You can find it by answering a simple question. What do you love doing so much that you would do it for free? L.P. Jacks said, "A master in the art of living draws no sharp distinction between his work and his play, his labor and his leisure, his mind and his body, his education and his recreation. He hardly knows which is which. He simply pursues his vision of excellence through whatever he is doing and leaves others to determine whether he is working or playing. To himself, he always appears to be doing both." And Jack Welch? The world will belong to passionate, driven leaders, people who not only have enormous amounts of energy, but who can energize those whom they lead. Leadership is influence, nothing more, nothing less. People gravitate to passion. So, are you passionate about the work you do? I worked with someone once who was really passionate about what they were doing, but they had one major flaw. They never, ever wanted to hear any bad news about the team. If you're not able to hear both the good and the bad, you're not dealing with a major responsibility as a leader. John says it's a leader's job to define reality. One of the pitfalls that can stop you as a potential leader is the desire to focus on the vision to the detriment of facing reality. So we need to ask the question, how do you find out what is real? A reality check requires you to do 4 things. First, admit your weaknesses. Don't be afraid of it. Your team already knows them, and admitting them lets them know you know. Embrace realistic people. Birds of a feather do flock together. You need to have team members who complement your weaknesses. Ask for honesty from others. When you experience success, it becomes increasingly difficult to have people around you who will tell you what you need to hear rather than what you want to hear. And you need to hear the truth. It will keep you real. Invite fresh eyes to check you out. When Jose Velasquez joined our Changing Focus Moving from We to Me teaching team this spring, I was excited about more than what he brings individually to our team. Matt Bruni and I have become very comfortable leading the sessions each month. But because he was new, I knew Jose would ask why and how questions. And it's been really good for us. As Jim Collins points out in his book, Good to Great, good leaders who lead great companies face reality and make changes accordingly. He says you absolutely cannot make a series of good decisions without first confronting the brutal facts. So, I'm going to ask, how are you doing? Are you learning anything from what I've shared with you? Jose, I see you there. Thanks for being on. Jenny, thank you for being on. I appreciate it. Our time's going quickly. What time is it? Oh, yep, our time's going quickly. And I want to applaud you for taking the time to be here. Leaders learn continually. However, true leadership development happens over time. It's a process. Do you have a personal growth plan? What are you doing every day to develop as a leader? Events like this one today can make you aware of what you need to do to develop as a leader, but they can only start the learning process. I learned from John to take time at the end of every year to evaluate my calendar for the previous 12 months. And one thing I look at is how much I spend. Yes, how much I spend, the dollars that I spend on personal growth. Experts tell us we should spend 10% of our income on personal development. And actually, we shouldn't even call it spending. We should call it investing. When we put money towards our personal development, that's an investment. So I'm going to ask you, do you know how much you've invested in yourself in the last 12 months? Here's a series of questions for you with some learning points. How do you keep learning and growing? Number one, invest in yourself first. There's a direct link between your team or company's growth and your growth. And if you want to lead, you must learn. If you want to continue to lead, you must continue to learn. I've been asked before, how do I create a growth environment for the people I lead? Well, this is what a growth environment looks like. It's a place where the following 10 things happen. Number one, other people are ahead of you. You are continually challenged. You are focused forward. The atmosphere is affirming. You are out of your comfort zone often. Number six, you wake up excited. Failure is not your enemy. Other people are growing. People want change. And the final one is growth is modeled and expected. If you can create a growth environment, not only will the people in your organization grow and improve, but people with great potential will knock down your doors to become part of your team. And that will transform your organization. People, let's finish up here with a couple more things. I want to talk about people quitting people, not companies. Oscar Wilde said, "Some cause happiness wherever they go. Some cause happiness whenever they go." Have you ever known someone like that? It's estimated that 1 in 2 people leaving companies does so because of their managers. And over 80% of employees say they've considered it. We may say that people quit their job or their company, but the reality is that they usually quit their leaders. The company doesn't do anything negative to them. People do. Sometimes coworkers cause problems that prompt people to leave, but often the people who alienate employees are their direct supervisors. So what types of people do employees quit on? People quit people who devalue them. These are bosses who manipulate them and treat them like objects. That is never appropriate for any leader. What should you do? Appreciate your team. Find out where they add value and place them there to maximize their efforts. People quit people who are untrustworthy. Michael Winston, the managing director and chief leadership officer for Countrywide Financial Corporation, said, "Effective leaders ensure that people feel strong and capable. In every major survey on the practices of effective leaders, trust in the leader is essential if other people are going to follow that person over time. People must experience the leader as believable, credible, and trustworthy. One of the ways trust is developed, whether in the leader or any other person, is through consistency in behavior. Trust is also established when words and deeds are congruent." Let me ask you this. What are the quickest way leaders lose the trust of their people? By acting inconsistently in what they say and do, and seeking personal gain above shared gain. Last, people also quit people who withhold information, such as in outright lying or telling half-truths. And lastly, people quit leaders who are incompetent and those who are insecure. Now, I'm looking at the time. I know I need to wrap this up. Want to touch on some proven action steps. This is how to be a leader worth following rather than losing your key people. First, take responsibility for relationships. As a leader, you take the lead in making sure relationships are positive. Conduct exit interviews. Find out if you're the reason they're leaving. And if you are, take the high road and own it. You also want to value those who work for you. It's wonderful when people believe in their leader. It's even more wonderful when the leader believes in the people. Prioritize credibility. There will be times when you are in over your head. Be trustworthy during those times. Lastly, maintain positive emotional health. Follow the platinum rule and have a positive attitude with your team. It will be contagious. That is the thing you want your people to catch. Now, did somebody say, what's the platinum rule? Am I reading somebody's mind? Well, when you live by the platinum rule, you don't treat people like you want to be treated. You treat people like they want to be treated. And very often, there's a difference. Lastly, you want to maintain a teachable spirit. And this means understanding that everyone and every situation can teach you something. Having this attitude with your team will encourage them to be teachable too. Remember, people do what they see. Now I have one last quick teaching before I'm going to go. And that is that people will summarize your life in one sentence, and you need to pick it now. I want you to think about what it is that you want to leave behind when you pass from this earth. Claire Booth Luce cleverly called it your life sentence. If you are intentional about creating your legacy, people at your funeral won't have to wonder what your life sentence was. Eleanor Roosevelt remarked once that life is like a parachute jump. You've got to get it right the first time. Author and leadership expert John Cotty said, most people don't lead their lives, they just accept them. I don't want that statement to apply to you. Please don't allow that statement to apply to you. Begin now choosing the legacy you want to leave others. It may just be the beginning of the process, but that's okay, because you've got to start in order to finish. There is much more that we could take time to talk about. What we really are going to finish now. Change starts with awareness, and to increase your awareness, you need to be intentional with your growth. For those of you who want to learn more, one way to do that is to join Matt Sitasek and Bruni Garcia tomorrow evening, April 23rd at 8:00 p.m. They're going to be talking about personal growth, personal development. It's free, but you have to register. And I'll put the link to do that in the comments. There we go. And you can also join Jose Velasquez and me for a LinkedIn Live audio event every Thursday at 12:30 p.m. Eastern Time on the Leader Transition Institute LinkedIn page. If you RSVP to the event, LinkedIn will send you a reminder. This week, Jose and I are going to discuss the difference between management and leadership. And for information about changing focus, moving from we to me, I'll put that link in the comments too. 1 second here. Okay. To stay in a growth environment, I hope you'll follow me, and I should put that up here. Where is that? Somewhere I have my LinkedIn. Okay, here we go. Follow me on LinkedIn and look for Annie Brock. And follow the Leader Transition Institute. Thanks for being here with me today. I'll see you again on May 28th.